Right then guys, it's PSL here, and I'm here for the 5th episode in my Power Stages series here on Dirt 4, where fittingly for the 5th episode, we'll be taking a look at the R5 cars. Don't ask me where the R3 cars went, considering we've already had the R2, NR4/R4, and now the R5 cars, but nevertheless, let's carry on. Now, all of the R5 cars are pretty much identical to each other in their technical specifications. It doesn't matter whether it's the Ford Fiesta, the Peugeot 208, or even the Mitsubishi Space Star. All of them have 280 horsepower and weigh 2,711 pounds or 1.22 tons. Now, I do have a fourth car, which is a Hyundai i20 R5, but unless you've pre-ordered the game, you won't have it, so I'll ignore it for the time being. So because there are 3 near identical cars, I'm not going to show you the entirety of each of their stages individually. Instead, I'm going to start off by showing you which one of the cars is the slowest. And surprisingly, the slowest of the R5 cars is the Ford Fiesta. It may be 16.5 seconds quicker around Kangaroo Farm than its R2 counterpart, but it was still the slowest of the R5s, with a stage time of 2 minutes and 51.061 seconds. Now, there is nothing I can really pinpoint to say lost the Ford Fiesta time, at the very least in terms of its handling, because it felt very solid, controllable, and overall had no negative traits. What I can say is that this car, not only did it post the slowest stage time, it was also the slowest in a straight line. The Ford Fiesta hit a limited top speed of 109 miles per hour as standard without altering the gear ratios at the very least. The Peugeot hit a maximum speed of 111 miles an hour, and finally the Mitsubishi Space Star was the fastest with a top speed of 114 miles an hour. Not only that, but the Ford was also the slowest accelerating car of the bunch. The Fiesta spent a total of 9.799 seconds getting from the start line to the start of the bridge. The Peugeot 208 had the second highest top speed and was the second quickest of the 3 to the bridge, with a time of 9.649 seconds. The Mitsubishi, whilst 3 miles per hour faster in top speed, set a pretty much identical time to the Peugeot. It was 17 thousandths of a second quicker, but that could very much be due to a difference in my reaction time between both runs, or even just a miscounted frame, as it is only 1 frame difference between the Peugeot and the Mitsubishi. So essentially, those 2 cars accelerate at pretty much exactly the same speed. Going around the entirety of the stage, the Peugeot 208 felt more responsive than the Ford, and as we've already seen, it is the quicker accelerating car with the higher top speed. So not too surprisingly, the Peugeot 208 did beat the Ford Fiesta by just less than 2 seconds over the whole stage. So now it's on to the final car in the original R5 trilogy, the Mitsubishi Space Star. Now the Mitsubishi, not only is it the quickest accelerating car of the bunch and is the fastest in terms of top speed, but it also felt the best to drive. It was the last one of the 3 I drove, so maybe I just got more comfortable with these R5 cars as I went along, but what I can say is that the Space Star did feel like the slightly better car, almost as if it was lighter, and whilst it may be the same weight as the others, it is about 200mm shorter in terms of length than the others, so that may well have helped it around this stage. Regardless, this Mitsubishi was indeed the quickest of the 3, and even despite a camera helicopter doing its best to obscure my view whilst I was driving the Space Star, it still beat the Peugeot by 9/10 of a second and the Ford by 2.8 seconds around Kangaroo Farm. Not only that, but the time I was in the Mitsubishi was the time that Alvarez went the slowest, and as the times that AI set are based around the car you're in and not the car that they're in, the Mitsubishi is certainly the best car, as it's the quickest of the 3 in pretty much every sense, and it makes the offline portion of the game easier than if you were driving either the Fiesta or the 208, because the gap over the AI is bigger. And that is it, the R5 category done. Except for one thing. the Hyundai i20 R5 car. Now if you didn't pre-order Dirt 4, you won't have this car, but if you did like me, then this car is another one to consider. It's near identical in technical specification to the other R5 cars. The only difference is that this car has 5 more horsepower than the others. It achieves the second highest top speed of any of the R5 cars at 111 miles an hour, which is exactly the same as the Peugeot 208, but it is still 3 miles per hour down on the Mitsubishi. In terms of acceleration, it is technically the quickest, but once again there may be difference in my reaction times or even frame counting, as it is 16 thousandths of a second quicker than the Space Star. But realistically speaking, it is identical to the Peugeot and the Mitsubishi, and they're all roughly 0.2 of a second quicker than the Ford Fiesta. But bringing it back towards the Hyundai, it is the more powerful car of the four. It's marginally quicker accelerating, and it has the joint second highest top speed. It is also, I believe, slightly longer than the Mitsubishi Space Star, so it could go either way. So, will the Hyundai i20 beat the best of the bunch so far, the Mitsubishi Space Star?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Thanks again, Nicky, and away we go. Now the Hyundai has got 5 more horsepower than the Fiesta, the 208 and the Space Star, so it's going to use that 5 horsepower to be the quickest accelerating car, albeit pretty much identical to the 208 and the Space Star. And going on down the straight, as we will see, the Hyundai i20 is going to reach 111 miles an hour just about. The speedo reading 115 miles an hour, but that's a false speed because that's when the car's in the air. That's just the maximum speed the wheels can physically rotate at, and we're really out of control there. It's the most out of control around that corner we've been since the Subaru Impreza in the previous episode, and that was a much slower car. Now the reason I'm only showing you the Hyundai's entire stage lap is because all of the cars handled very similarly. To be honest, there's no real massive difference. I think it's the sort of thing, it's the sort of if you drove them all, you might be able to notice a slight difference, but there's certainly no difference you can see with the naked eye, and there's nothing really to comment on. I mean, the Ford, just for me, felt slightly slower in every sense. It felt slightly heavier, it felt slightly less quick off the line, but generally speaking, the Ford, maybe the Ford felt slightly slower than the others, but the Peugeot, the Mitsubishi and the Hyundai all feel exactly the same. They're basically the same car. Sure, the Hyundai, technically speaking, is slightly quicker, but as we've already seen, the Hyundai, if you cannot drive the, if you can't drive the Hyundai, the Mitsubishi is the car to go for. It's the quickest of the three, albeit only slightly, and you have a massive advantage over the AI, which, well, looking at it at the moment, we've got quite a big gap over Alvarez, but I don't think it's in quite the same league as we had when I was driving the Space Star. But the Hyundai, there really is nothing you can fault it, and to be honest, this has been quite a scrappy stage. I mean, that's the second mistake I think I've made already this stage, and it's only, well, a 3-minute stage. I mean, the other cars have done 2-minute 50-ish stage times. So, really, there's nothing I can fault the Hyundai on. It's a very decent, rapid accelerating, lots of grip, 4-wheel drive rally car. There's nothing I can fault it. The Space Star is the best of the original 3. The Hyundai, technically speaking, logically, is the slightly quicker one. To be fair, we got to wait for the stage time because the Mitsubishi Space Star, it's the quicker in top speed. It's the shortest, which obviously helps with manoeuvrability. So it could very well beat the Hyundai, but coming around the final corner, the Hyundai, is it going to beat the Mitsubishi? Yes, just about actually. It's beaten the Mitsubishi by, I think, 0.7 of a second, but there you go. On paper, the Hyundai's the quickest, and as we've just seen out on gravel in Kangaroo Farm, it's the quickest here as well. And there you have it. That completes the trend of the cars getting quicker as I went through them, as the Hyundai i20 R5 rally car set a stage time of 2 minutes and 47.554 seconds, 0.7 of a second quicker than the Mitsubishi Space Star. And as we just saw there during the Hyundai stage, it wasn't a perfect stage. It was good, but there was certainly time lost due to a few scrappy minor mistakes. So if you eliminate those mistakes, there could be an extra second found during the Hyundai stage. But then again, I'm sure there is time to be gained in the Mitsubishi, Peugeot, and even the Ford stage. I'm sure none of them were perfect, but certainly the Hyundai's was the most notably scrappy. But even despite that, it is the quickest car of the R5 category, and also for the time being, the fastest car I've driven on the game. But we've still got quite a few rallying categories left, with some very quick cars in, so the Hyundai is the quickest for now, but it could still easily be displaced from the top spot. Anyway, to quickly summarise this video, the Hyundai i20 is just about the quickest R5 car. If you don't have it, then the Mitsubishi Space Star is your best bet. However, if you want to make the offline portion of the game as easy as possible, then you should still go for the Mitsubishi, as whilst that car was only the second quickest, it saw Alvarez at his slowest, and for that reason and for that reason alone, the Mitsubishi, it still has some worth, but for pure bragging rights, the Hyundai, it wins out.